Hello everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Moss1 here, initialize over there. And ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing you the action of the the LJL 2021 Spring Juggernaut match featuring DetonatioN FocusMe and Rascal Jester. Game 4 is upon us. Initialize. DetonatioN FocusMe are on match point. And let's have a little talk about an archaeologist on Summoner's Rift that's causing a bit of an issue for every other champion on the Rift. That's Ezreal.
Say it with me, everybody. Just ban Ezreal. Do not give this champion to Sol or Utapon. Do not let this champion, if you do let it get through, get early kills. That was another ridiculous Ezreal performance. Utapon went 13-0-7 on the champion and did 29.3k damage in about 28 minutes. So over 1,000 DPM.
It's
Mental
like
stuff.
It's like Utapon saw Sol's KDA of the last game of 8-0-6 and was like, I can beat it. I could beat it. Just give me a moment, lads. It's absolutely incredible. And like we've been seeing both of them absolutely pop off in very similar ways. Obviously, the counter that Utapon had was this Varus. It didn't work out. We've seen Sol try out a Kai'Sa. It was okay. The Jinx definitely had a few more issues, but the moment that the Kai'Sa was there, well, Ari was on the Zoe, and that one team fight you could almost argue was more of Arya just kind of preventing out and Utapon just doing what they needed to do in that fight. We've seen two Ezreals absolutely pop off here, and I have to agree with you. Just ban Ezreal really is the kind of song that we're going for here, but we've also seen a lot of different things come out. Obviously, we need to talk about this Qiyana, because I've got my opinion on this, and I truly believe it's just Recap hasn't played this matchup in such a long time, and we know Arya can pull out seemingly almost any champion in the game, potentially, and throw it into that mid lane and maybe cause Recap a few issues.
Well, yeah, exactly. Both of these squads came out with a couple kind of attempted surprise picks, right? Like Qiyana for DFM was a bit of a shock to the system. On the other side, I mean, it was Lissandra and Urgot came out alongside this Jinx Thresh, which is a little bit sort of newer end of tech as well. It didn't work out, but the theory is sound, right? Like you throw in Lissandra and Skarner, and suddenly you're all CC'd up for Jinx and Urgot to look for executes in the team fight, and it never got that chance because the front line was dying and who they were picking off. Like, you spent a lot of CC to try and kill Agragas, who still got most of his damage down, and all the while, this Qiyana, this Ezreal are still firing out damage. It wasn't enough, but I appreciate the idea. It kind of all got skewed as well off that level 1 kill, right? I mean,
It really did.
It was a great strat, don't get me wrong, from DFM. Emmy going across the wall, waiting for the cooldown to come back up on the body slam, and then walking around the corner, having been sort of and Recap was sort of shepherded around the corner by DFM saying, "Oh, we're going for a normal level 1 event." It's like, ha, baited you. I'm already here, says Ebby. Oh my word.
Well, it's hilarious because they almost both awkwardly stepped at one another. They were almost like, oh. And then Ebby's like, well, I'm going to EU first before you can do anything. And the CC chain came out, right?
Yeah. I mean, and the problem is, like, as we said, that meant that Ezreal started lane with a tier, which just skews everything in terms of timings. And like, I can understand Rascal just saying, okay, that's a bit of an anomaly. We try that, we run that back again, and that doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more even, and maybe the Ezreal doesn't get us fed, and we can try that again. And maybe that is what they decided in this game, because DFM are actually back on blue. Rascal just have not gone to blue, despite getting side selection for this one.
So, obviously, if the Ezreal does get banned, I'm imagining DFM are going to keep to their guns, because why shouldn't they? They are on blue side. They can definitely leave the Ezreal open. I imagine the Tristana ban's going to be coming out from them. They've been banning it a fair amount, has Rascal Jester, and potentially that's their way around it. They're like, well, if we give them both Tristana and Ezreal, maybe we can get the Ezreal, but that's not really the spot you want to be in. But so far, DetonatioN FocusMe are probably going to go for that Senna ban on B3, and then Rascal Jesters are probably going to match what they've done in the past, as the Tristana has already been taken away, and that Twisted Fate's probably going to get banned, and then it just leaves it all open for DFM. But we haven't seen anybody first pick the Ezreal yet.
Not yet. There's Twisted Fate ban. I wonder what the DFM feel they do need to first pick it. I mean, Hecarim is left open.
Oh god,
though,
yeah.
So they could definitely think to pick that up. And Ezreal, as fast as he can run, Hecarim can run faster, it turns out, so it's still a way to get on top of the Ezreal a little easier than it has been in previous games.
Oh, look at Kanati staring down at Metcha going, tell me what to do.
Well, exactly, and this is the question at this point. Do Rascal Jester just early rotation the Ezreal here? Because otherwise, I think DFM just pick it up 2 and 3 here. I mean, there it is.
Yeah.
I think it possibly has to be done. It's won every game. It's been so good for both these AD carries, and locked in for Sol. Time to see whether he can return the favor one more time. Utapon ran over game 1 and 3. Sol did it in game 2. They'll have to try and do it in game 4 if they don't want to lose it all. Just a note as well, of course, these rosters have not changed. We're not seeing anything like Seros gang in for Arya and Kazu. Udyr locked in for Hatchemetcha, not going to go towards the Skarner as well, so that's a bit of a change up. And now DFM have to pick their own responses. Maybe they pick up the Gragas. Gragas Rel could be an option here to take both away.
I mean, it is an option for them. They're going for the Kai'Sa, so I imagine this Gragas is going to do a similar situation that they did last time, with obviously Ebby being allowed to play it, but obviously then they locked in the Alistair and kind of put things more in an awkward spot. Now the Rel's a bit more awkward. You can still pick the Thresh. It is open. Or are we going to see a new support coming out in this lineup? We saw Alistair for the first time, and it is going to be a new support. It's going to be Leona locked in as we go into the second round of bans, and I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we're probably going to see a Nocturne. We're probably going to see Zillion and Orianna banned by Detonation FocusMe. And then it's the last ban over on the side of Rascal Jesters to figure out. And I'm just using history here.
Yeah, no one's allowed Nocturne in this series, it turns out. Kiana away from Arya, just like, no, not again. The supreme display of talent will end with that last game. Arya has earned himself that ban, I feel. And DFM,
Initialize.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, do you think we might see Arya's most played champion?
Ooh, there's a shout. I wonder. What is his most played champion actually at the minute?
Well, what would you associate Arya with more than any champion? No, not the
Lucian?
Zoe. Not Zoe. Not Lucian, actually. No, it's a champion became very fond of him on. His huge, crazy carry potential came from this champion. The healing was absurd.
Silas.
Yes, of course. 14 games across it. It's his most played champion, and that's saying something, especially if a Syndra is locked in and Utapon doesn't seem particularly happy about seeing that.
I mean, Recap's been good on the Syndra. I don't think he's actually been a game-winning factor, but he's also just like held lane. He's held Arya to account in the mid lane with the Syndra, which has been quite useful. He's not been able to get out as much when he's been on that champion. So, we've got to see what the lock-ins will be. Recap did go towards that Syndra, so Arya has a chance to respond now. And DFM looking for either a support or top in a mid lane.
Yes, I imagine we're going to see... Oh, wow, if we got one assassin into another, Arya is going to get to do it, and maybe that's why Utapon was a little bit restless. He's like, are you actually doing this to me? Are you really doing this to me, Arya? And he's like, you can see him. He's hyped. He's excited. He's got a smile on his face. He can barely contain it, though this rookie Kanatu is now on the same spot he was in last time. He's got the counter pick potential, and everything went good for this player. Remember, last game, he was the shining hope for them. And it looks like Cho'Gath is going to be coming in. No, it's his Aatrox. Okay, this is exciting. So this is his best champion.
You reckon it is?
This is his best champion by an absolute country mile. We haven't got to see a huge amount over here in the LJL. He's only played it 3 games. He's currently got a 33% win rate. He did get one of those losses. It was actually all the way back in week 1 where he played against Ebby on this Renekton. He won't have this time around last time. He has got a win on this. This was against Dasher. No, it wasn't being Dasher. It was against the Hawks way back when. It was against Appamen. So obviously that's pretty good talent to be beating. He was having absolutely dominating, game-changing performances. If we see any very deep teleportations coming out from Kanatu, this is harking back to Scouting Grounds. Right. He was able to do 2 3-man knockups with this Aatrox. He was absolutely game-changing in Scouting Grounds, and this was one of the champions he was picked up to play. I'm excited to see it.
It's a little bit more front to back again for both of these squads, but DFM have definitely got a little bit of a of a trip to the swimming pool coming up because they're looking to go for the gold medal in diving here. Hecarim, Akali, Kai'Sa, Alistar, Gragas to an extent as well. All very happy to start jumping into that backline. Ezreal needs to be making sure he can get out of that. Of course, they've got some own disruption of their own. Aatrox, Udyr, the Leona, not bad against the backline themselves, but Syndra and Ezreal need to be real careful because that's a lot of people coming for their heads in these team fights.
Definitely is, though on the side of the Jesters, they've got this Leona. We haven't seen Leona at all be picked up. Kazu obviously going again for this Alistar, feeling very comfortable on it, and then being allowed to flex it with Ebby playing this Gragas. And Ebby, while he didn't have a great Gragas game, he did exactly what the team needed him to do. Be that frontline, soak up the damage, because if he's allowed to do it, Utapon was able to output the huge damage. Though, Ezreal is in this game. 100% win rate in this series and has been a defining factor in these games. Let's see if Sol can find out that early blood early on and see if he can get that early tier. Or will it be Detonation FocusMe denying that? And actually this game going a fair bit in their favor. Obviously, the other talk of the town for this one is Arya on this Akali. Just double assassin back to back.
Yeah, he had a great game on the Kiana. He's looking to have another great game on the Akali. He has certainly shown his mechanics in the champion before. Tried it last year a little bit. What's your frustration, actually, when Akali wasn't quite as great, but he was still looking pretty dangerous on it, even if he Akali wasn't in as strong a spot, of course.
He did get a win on the Akali, obviously, this year. It was against Megumin in the mid lane. That was also playing Syndra. So this is actually a rematch for Arya when he did get that one win. He's already beaten it once in the LJL. Went through, I believe he went 4-0-3 on it. 7 KDA. Probably going for that Night Harvester. And going to do huge sums of damage, but we'll have to see how these games work. Blitzcrank-san is too scared to make an early prediction, but the AI spikes are going to go all over the place, but he's predicting late game DFM are going to be scary.
Yeah, I think that's possibly fair with the way this comp works. It gets very difficult, I suspect, for Syndra and Ezreal the later this game goes to survive everybody diving at their faces, but mid-game spikes from both pretty strong, and Sol's going to have a bit of his work cut out this time out, because it's not like he's not got the cleanse. It's not like it's just CC he has to work about, because people are just going to be on top of him the entire time, right? That's the danger with this particular comp. But of course, he's more than good enough to do it. Do not get me wrong. He has shown it across this season. Showed it in game 2, but I don't think this is the easiest Ezreal game. Like some of these other games, you know, Ezreal have had great starts because of where kills have gone or because of the matchups they've had. This time out, I think it might be a touch harder, especially when the likes of a Hecarim and Akali are coming for your skull.
Yeah, I would agree with you here. We've got, obviously, the assassin of the Akali. Steel can come out of absolutely nowhere on this Hecarim, and if Evie ever lands a body slam on it, it's just game over, because the casket immediately will come out, and Sol will be just in a CC chain of absolute nightmare fuel. Kazu also on this Alistar, it can be really awkward. There can be a lot of awkward spots here. However, they've got a lane that at least prevents a huge amount of burst coming out early game from the side of Detonation FocusMe. Obviously, Leona on the with Secret on this Leona is going to be able to kind of nullify and then play kind of keepsake for them. It just depends on how much they might lose if Sol does if Secret does sacrifice a huge amount for his AD carry here, as both the junglers are on bot side. Steel is looking for a moment, but we'll have to see if he gets anything here.
Oh, Hachimecha cancels the recall as well, so he is going to be around, but Secret now in danger. Flashes away, but there's a devastating charge anyway. Will not land. The Zenith Blade teleports being burned by absolutely everybody. It's a party in bot lane, and everyone is here to tackle. But Arya with an incredible use of the Shuriken flip gets it. Can't quite find the kill though, but flashes for the 5-point strike and gets it. What an express delivery the Shinkansen lives in on Summoner's Rift. As well as Evie going in with a body slam as well. Sol survives though somehow, some way, and DFM come out of this fight in bot lane 3-0 after Arya gets an express trip to bot off the most incredible Shuriken flip I've seen in a while.
I've never seen that in my life, what Arya just did. The fact that Soul is still alive, he should be thanking his little hearts that there was some justice, some form of retribution, something there that was looking up above him saying, you'll get out, but your team will lose 3 kills here. Secret immediately flashes away, tries to do everything, and a huge amount of teleportations are thrown in. But look at where Arya is. 1, 2, 3. I don't have to use a TP. I can just use look at that mini map, and he's coming in from downtown, flip, duck, diving, and dodgeball players would be proud of him. Kanatu here gets taken solo so quickly. The flash comes out, and then Arya is able to do it. And this is at this point in time, TFM are just playing absolute cleanup. The fact that Ebby is able to land this body slam with the flash almost gets stole there. If an ignite had been put on him, there was an opportunity, but Kazu had already used that. They had used so much, and TFM out to a very early lead now. That's over 1k.
Yeah, it is. It's just about 5 minutes in. That's a great start, and Rascal Jester's got to be holding their head in their hands after that one. It looked so good for the double teleport, but Arya getting to come down. It was a complete party, but just the slight delay. The fact the secret goes down first makes it that 4v5. It does get tricky. Utapon still got summoners. Sol down a lot of his. It makes things very, very scary. A lot of gold across the board on a lot of members. And I mean, it's nearly 2,000 gold, honestly, Lexi. Well, 1.7, something like that, if I do my maths correctly, which is not entirely accurate, knowing me.
You're an English major, not a math major, so
I did do a lot of physics in my later years at high school in Venice.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So at one point I was okay at maths. It's been a long time since I've done it on any regularity. Showing up a little bit here, but look who's around still. It's Steel. He's going to come around. I think we might be seeing potentially another dive here. That's a lot of very scary people. Not a lot of summoners available for these members. No level 6 though, make that very risky. So I think they'll pull away.
I think they were just seeing if Hachimechi was anywhere nearby so they could potentially look to try and get this dragon, as it is an Infernal Drake. And yes, it's not going to matter a huge amount, but Arya isn't going to have any kill pressure onto Recap unless he lands certain shuriken flips and the like. He also would prefer it if Steel could dive the tower and maybe tank it up first. So we'll be looking and probably waiting for Steel to get this first dragon. Probably tick him over to 6. If you look at the experience, he should be able to get that from this dragon. And then we'll be able to rotate around and do some diving action. He might also invade this blue side, as we can see Hachimetra actually trying to make up for something, as they just assume this dragon's going to be going down rather soon. It does. Steel doesn't actually ting over to 6 like I was expecting, but as it's currently sitting, Kinatu is pretty low on CS at the moment. Ebby is definitely punishing him, and this was not the start I was expecting from this rookie jungler. Oh no, this rookie top laner.
DFM have been pinging this red buff for a while, saying like, okay, Hachimechi has not gone to the red buff. He must be somewhere else. Like, it turns out he is. He's by this blue buff and by the Grom. He's now going to spot Steel, but he's got the level 6 advantage. I wonder where this goes. Steel thinks he can fight this. Devastating charging forwards. Ebby is here. I think Hachimechi might have gone too deep. He's going to get slowed down by the barrel, but they can't quite get close. And of course, still no onslaught of shadows. Body slam lands, and there's the cash back. He's in so much danger. He's just going to take it. He's got the Phoenix dance. Not quite enough damage, but Ebby gets it with the
6.
There's the onslaught of shadows onto Kinatu, who gets, of course, the world and will get out with that, but has to pop his ultimate to survive. Taken very low, and that'll be some proxy farming beginning by Ebby. And DFM punishing Hachimecha for overstepping with the aggression. They knew something was weird when that red buff was up for too long, and Steel says, okay, I'll pop Ghost. You might be fast as Udyr, but you're not as fast as me. Racehorses do racehorse things.
And he will be able to secure that red buff. And even with that, Ebby was just causing Kinatu even more issues. And look at the CS lead just keep ballooning for this Gragas in the top lane. Ebby is absolutely forcing off. And this is all off of Steel and Ebby and what they did earlier. Killing Hachimecha, putting the reset on, taking this red buff, and now just making things really awkward. Hachimecha is at least finding his way around it, making trades happen. But look at this. Utapon is just going, I'm just going to place a ward here. Oh, that's interesting. Kazu, do you mind coming around to help me? Because of this and because of the bot lane pulling off, Recap is like, I have to babysit and kind of try and juggle this. They are going to give this over, but this gives so much information over to DFM that they know they can just take this Rift Tower for free when there won't be any congestion.
Yeah, it is about a 2,000 gold lead now over for DFM. They've got a Herald in inventory. They are winning pretty much across the map. The one thing I will say is at least Sol has managed to find himself back into the game a little bit by surviving that dive on 5 HP, apparently. Thanks again, production, for that little note. But he got to stay in lane, pick up the wave of farm, whereas Utapon backed away, so that's hurt a little bit in terms of like a little bit of the CS, but it's kept Sol in the game, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here, and he could be a threat. We've seen Ezreal in this game do absolutely horrific things as these games have gone on, as Arya might find himself the target of a number of members of Rascal Jester. Secret is going to try and pull out behind, but I think Arya wisely roams towards the other side of his lane, aware that he has no vision control and no idea where Secret and Hatchemetra are.
We'll just have to wait around for these first few items to come in. DFM, even with this early lead, they haven't quite gotten to the break point where their first items are coming around. Ebby, obviously, though, is in a very comfortable gold lead, has got 2 turret plates in this top side and a huge CS advantage of over 20 CS at this point now. And it's just going to force Kinatu into this awkward spot because he's on a champion that really wants to be ahead of this Gragas in the early game, and now he's forced off because Ocean Drake is going to be coming up in another minute. I wouldn't be too surprised if Rascal Jester just give this one over and just kind of allow Detonation FocusMe to keep going, because they need to also match when Detonation FocusMe have items.
They really do. That's part of the problem, right? Is they're like kind of waiting on some completions for Ezreal, kind of waiting on some completion for Recap, who's like on a tier and a mana crystal right now. Backs and gets a lost chapter as I speak about it, so not quite as egregious as it once was, but a minute or so to this Ocean Dragon, and I suspect with the gold that's in DFM's pockets, they will have mythics compared to Rascal Jester on components.
And where we are is... Oh dear, yeah. Oh, Ebby's here too.
Here comes the boom. Steel pops the devastating charge. It's a good scan of the weep, but it's not enough. It's still going to come through. The bounce house is there. And Ebby's cask does it. Drink 1 for your fallen mid laner, Rascal Jester. Ebby is providing, it turns out. Catering, courtesy of Gragas.
That's a very well played opportunity from Detonation FocusMe, just identifying that, hey, the Jesters aren't backing up. They aren't going to rotate around this, and we're going to be able to get a huge amount of turret plates, and they're just playing around. They're responding to what we do as opposed to being any at all proactive and trying to do something that you mentioned earlier before we even came into pick and ban phase.
Yeah, it's a lot of plates in mid. It's a lot of plates already for Ebby in top. This game is getting very quickly out of control. That's 3,000 gold now for DFM, just over. There's an Ocean Drake spawning and everyone else is back onto the map. Look in your inventories. Again, no completed mythics yet for DFM, but at least Sol has been forming up an absolute storm and does have an Essence Reaver in inventory, so that's great news for him.
As it sounds, they haven't been able to take this dragon. The moment they pull off, they go, yeah, the problem is we don't really know where a lot of members of DFM are, and Steel was already on top of a ward going, well, we're just here. We're just waiting for an opportunity, and now they get to just take full priority because, again, Rascal Jester just have to give respect. They know they're a few K gold behind now, and they have to play around the map. But the problem is Steel is still in this bot side, and Sol and Secret have to just kind of walk off and go, yeah, we can't do anything if Hakram's here. And Udyr and Hatchemetra can't actually do anything to back them up. They just kind of have to accept that they are just behind at the moment in this game.
They are. Night Harvester completed for Arya with the teleport coming back in as well, so he is filthy strong right now. Anybody he gets onto will have a very bad time of it. Not far away from level 11 either, I would imagine, which would put perfect execution up to that second rank to really increase that assassination threat.
Oh, yeah.
And Drake number 2 is being started up by DFM. Kazu is playing Guardian here, preventing any easy access, and Hatchemetra's not around. He's over by this red buff. There's still a pink ward by that red buff, by the way, which makes things a bit difficult. Steel might have to be a little wary here, but we'll get that Steel. And now Recap. Gonna be riskier, but Ebby is around the back, just gonna get onto Recap there. There's the explosive gas. He's not bad. Oh. There's the Sugar Flip that misses. So that's at least something. Now Kazu's in trouble, but pops the Unbreakable Will, gets stunned in place anyway. He's still very tanky. Gonna get knocked up. I think that's just gonna be a very dead cow. Gets a headbutt away and will fall. Missed Shuriken Flip is a bit frustrating. Teleport comes through for Kinatu, and Rascal Jesters are finally on the board.
They are, but they were able to give over a turret plate down to Utapon in this bot side. It just pings over, and what did they lose outside of that? Kinatu also had to put in his teleportation into that for better or for worse to make sure they secured it. But they're also going to be trading still this mid turret, and Arya is just threatening to kill Recap,
Yes,
but he's getting collapsed on.
He is. He's got perfect execution, looking for the shuriken flip as well. Going to try and find his way out of dodge. Slows with the 5-point strike. Perfect execution over to the red buff, and is out of dodge for now. Looking for a shuriken flip, probably over the wall here. Waiting to see where Kinatu is. There is everybody else. He gets over the wall with the flash, and is going to get out in safely. Flash from Hachimecha for the bear slap. Still not enough. Arya had to finally burn a summoner. But, actually, that's, okay, bit of an interesting recall spot. Does get out without too much worry.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, they stop it. Recap's in danger now. He's going to be in so much bother. Headbutt, Pulv, and the Rose of Syndra. Beautiful skin, by the way. Goes straight down. Arya gets that kill. Not quite sure why he was there.
No idea why he was there. I mean, it was very unfortunate for them that Steel was obviously holding still the W of Hecarim, which is the life steal, which prevented Recap's recall from fully going off, which put him in a no man's land situation. Kazu just goes, wait a second, didn't something just ping off there? And they get another kill, and it feels like what they just used to kill Kazu just got repaid back to Kazu and the crew of Detonation FocusMe, and they're like, okay, well, we'll just trade this, we'll take this, move them closer to victory, and Detonation's FocusMe is 3-1, which a lot of people did predict, myself included. Looking rather good right now. However, this Ezreal has still gone untouched, and this is definitely a champion that is worth mentioning at every moment, because they could always just turn online and change the dynamics of this game in a heartbeat.
Ezreal gets himself a turret down in bot side, but not before Arya gets the turret in mid for first turret no less, and Utapon gets a second shortly after. That gold lead ballooning to 4,500 gold for Detonation FocusMe. Gold pretty much across the map leads, honestly. It's a little bit more even between Sol and Utapon, who have got some more parity there, but that AI stat bot really doesn't lie. 84% chance to win feels pretty likely. 2 Drakes. They've already had that Herald earlier on. They've got 2 turrets. They got first turret. They've got a lot of gold. It's looking very Detonation FocusMe favored, and Sol's going to have to pull out a carry performance of his life if he wants to carry from the position he's in now.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be coming out sooner rather than later. Obviously, the Essence Reaver currently in for Sol, and they need to at least get to 3-item Ezreal. They need to get to about the 28-minute mark of this game, if I may use a time that has become unanimous with this series so far. And with the countdown approaching on this Cloud Drake, Rascal Jester realized that maybe in a minute and a half, this isn't going to be the fight they want, but 5 minutes after that, so in 6 minutes and 20 seconds time, it might be, and they're gonna have to find some opportunities around the map. They need to find some collapses, but Kazu is already walking around this map, doesn't want to do any crazy face checks, wants to always have the backup of at least Steel with him, and now Detonation FocusMe begin the clearing of vision from Rascal Jester. They're also looking towards this bot side turret to try and have full turret control.
Going to be shoving up in that box, so to go towards that turret, as you called it out. Sol in mid lane, just trying to farm up best he can. He's not the terrifying Ezreal we've seen in a few games previously. He is getting strong, don't get me wrong. Still waiting to complete that Mana Mume into the Muramana, which will put him really online, but all the while, DFM are continuing to take the advantages across the map. That's their 3rd turret now. This Aatrox for Kinatu, quiet this game compared to Ebu's 2-0-2 on this Gragas. In goes Utapon, trying to get the solo kill onto Recap, who's to flash away from this Kai'Sa. Hachimecha's just going to come on down, but actually it's going to be pretty difficult. There's the flash in turn from Utapon, but Hachimecha now in danger himself. Does manage to get out. It's a flash for a flash, AD carry for mid laner.
Tank for Kentank as well.
That means that Utapon's going to come on over for this dragon, which will be sole point. And forcing Recap back to base early on before this dragon could be started is a pretty scary concept. There's the Herald number 2 summoned in bot lane because it needs to be used. And Ebi all the while isn't even here. He's just shoving top. Recap's gone over there. He'll have teleport shortly, but DFM full command of this bot side river, full command of this game, and they'll be at sole point to boot.
And they've got complete control over this dragon, and now the side of Rascal Jesters, as I mentioned, if they could find an opportunity, they would look for it. They tried to commit a huge amount onto Utapon, but because he was slippery enough to get away and Recap actually forced to use their flash, does put them at a difficult part, though they at least did trade back the flash, not the cleanse. Important of note, Recap is now very vulnerable. Utapon still has ways around in which to get out of a few things, and we're seeing that currently, for the side of Detonation FocusMe, Arya has also just finished their Lich Bane, whereas on the side of the Rascal Jesters, they've had to go for a voice staff very early on completed, just so that Recap even has a completed item. Wasn't able to go for that very early Leandries as I am expecting, or Ludens. I guess both
it's also,
are fine.
like, actually, who is Syndra hitting? Like, it's not the Akali, it's not this
No.
Kai'Sa who's now at 2 items as well. Like, he's trying to hit frontline, who've already got a lot of magic resist. Like, she was doing nothing before this. You know, Syndra was hitting a QE and taking 5% of somebody's health, like that, if that. Like, if you're going to play Syndra, you need to be doing more than that. And it's being problematic. There's Merc treads as well on Arya, which makes even blowing that character up pretty damn hard. At least Sol, now at 2 items, is fairly scary. Of course, the Muramana transformation completed the moment he completed Manamune. So, there is that, but you're basically running a 1 damage threat at the moment with Syndra and Aatrox adding some in, but it's really very limited right now, I feel. Arya...
As it currently is, and look at where the vision around the map is currently, Rascal Jesters are kind of playing in the back of their jungle. They have no way they can really force out, and they have to be scared at every moment, because without knowledge of every member on the group, there's 3 of them there, and they can just appear out of nowhere. Kanatu, it looks to be the pick that they're going for here. They do have some vision, but even with that vision, it's going to be very difficult. And look at this, Rascal Jester are playing the response tool. They're like, okay, we have to be pulled here, pulled there. The moment they see Hachimecha, they're like, oh, perfect. Well, now we can just go back and threaten this Baron at any point. We now know that you're on this side of the map. And immediately Detonation pull Rascal Jester back over onto the other side of the map, and they can just keep doing this to and fro kind of play, because at any moment, if they need Arya, they can teleport in. If they need Ebby and they are on the opposite side of the map, they can teleport in. They have this flexibility, and Rascal Jesters just have to be at the whim of them and try and find a pick when they have the opportunity.
They are holding onto this control ward tooth and nail right now, our Rascal Jesters, but I don't know what it will cost them quite yet. DFM have been splitting the map in that 1-3-1 style, Ebby topside, Arya bot, and then this roaming death squad of Utapon, Kazu, and Steel just looking to dive in on someone with all of their R buttons, but haven't found too much of yet, and DFM just happy to wait it out a little bit here. It's only 22 minutes into the game. Feels a lot later than that with how far the gold has gone, how far snowboard it is right now. But Baron has only recently become a consideration, and honestly, with Kai'Sa at 2 items and 3 tanks, 3 turbo chem tanks as well at that point, there is a world where you could start Baron relatively early here. There is a supercharger upgrade for Utapon as well with that Zeal completed. So 2 completed upgrades for the Acath, well, 1 for the Acathia Rain, 1 for the supercharger. Kai'Sa's not getting any weaker anytime sooner either. And Rascal Jesters, yes, you don't scale badly, but it's not like DFM are slouches in that front either. And honestly, with how tanky their front line gets and how hard it will be for you to cut through it, I think this gets harder and harder as this game goes on.
Oh, it really will. And the fact that Detonation FocusMe have been able to steal all of the dragons away, they took all of the Rift Heralds, and now they're threatening Baron at any moment. Rascal Jester need to try and find a way to steal something over, to find a pick on specifically Utapon or Arya. But I just don't think they're going to have that, because there is just 3 members of their front line that are more than happy to tank so much. Oh, if they can get a few bits of poke down from this Ezreal, there's always an opportunity.
1 control ward by the red buff has been defended once again by Rascal Jester, holding on desperately to at least some semblance of vision, some way to walk up to this Baron pit, but Ebby walking up with Steel. This might be finally a chance, but again, defended away from. DFM just can't quite get the last couple autos until just now. They're not even going to look for it. It's going to keep going in. Secret now in danger. Going to find themselves 2. Hachimecha trying to flash away, but there's an onslaught of Shadows forwards trying to get that last kill, and the jungler is down. The Solar Flare is not bad from Secret, but they can't follow up. And with the jungler dead, there is no smite. So even if you got vision, what are you going to do? DFM rotates straight back to Baron. It might only be 23.5 minutes, but they've got a Kai'Sa. They've got the damage. They've got the front line. And Rascal Jesters need to come over and try and fight in the 4v5, however difficult it might be.
Kazu's playing fully block and Arya's around the side. And yes, Kanadu can try and push him off, but that's a huge ultimate coming from Ezreal.
Maybe he's going to take him quite low. Might fall down, but flashes onto Soul, looking to get as much damage as they can. The cask is flashed away from Ebby, might trade, but Utapon goes over the wall, and the Cathian Rain make sure that's at least a 1-for-1. But all the while, the fight continues. Kinato so low, Arya as well, but he's healing up. It's a big knock-up from Arya, but he's gone golden with the stopwatch. He needs to flash away, and does so. Is mistimed by Kinatu, and he doesn't get that last Darkin Blade, and DFM win the fight to boot.
Over 2-for-1 exchange, and they will absolutely be more than happy with this. Obviously, Hachimecha is now up, and they really want to try and get this Cloud Dragon, because if they can at least get this, it prevents DFM from pushing. The moment that Utapon shows up, Kazu is like, well, I'm going to make sure they don't do this, and Steel is here with the cavalry.
Yeah, he is indeed. Cry Havoc and let slip Dogs of War. Not nice, the dogs. It'll be the wolves and the horses this time out. Hecarim on a warpath, which is oh so appropriate considering his passive. Very strong in this game as well with the 2 items complete. We'll see this replay, and just again, it's over this control wall by Red Buff.
It does begin there, but the moment they land that and the members of DFM feel like they've got comfortable, Kazu goes over the wall and they get the kill onto Hachimecha, and the moment they get that, they're like, that's all we wanted. That's actually the only person on the side that we really wanted, because as you mentioned, when the moment they got that kill, the smite fight is over, and now Rascal Jesters have to try and find a fight. That's a really good ultimate from Soul to try and put them here. The problem is he's outputting a huge amount of damage onto Ebby, and that's one of their front line. He is more than happy to tank this. They get that trade on Utapon, and then they get to just completely go absolutely berserk. Kanatu does try and find moments, try and find options, but he's just not enough, and they just keep push forward. They are able to get that Dragon Soul. It's another Cloud Soul, and Detonation FocusMe are going to be knocking on Rascal Jester's front door. If not now, it'll be very soon.
And speaking of champions that just love move speed, having used their ultimates, Hecarim, right up there as possibly the best user of that alongside Olaf. Really,
I guess
really
maybe Rammus as well, because gotta go fast. Okay.
That's not a bad show. Yeah. I think it's like Hecarim literally turns move speed into damage, and yes, you might be
Literally.
Hecarim, but a little bit more damage to make sure you're blowing up people. It sounds like a good option. Hachimecha and Kanata are going to try and get onto Arya, but I don't know how easy that is. He might win.
He's 16.
Honestly, he's so damn strong indeed. He's got 3 items complete, and he's level 16. Steel is the man who's split pushing in mid lane. As Akazu and Ebby just body block for Utapon. They've got a wave up to this tower. It's a double stun, but again, it's on the double tanks. Not really getting all that much done. Again, you see recaps damage. It's very limited. He's still not got a mythic completed. Completed the Seraph's second was his choice.
And the fact that Rascal Jesters have to just kind of awkwardly respond to this 3-1-1 with the side of sending multiple members into this top side, it means Ebby's just it means Arya and Steel are just allowed to keep pushing. And the thing is, these turrets are going down really quickly. The Baron is over, but that's a 4,800 gold Baron play, and they were still able to get a turret in top, turret in mid, turret in bot, and now they're pushing on to the base turrets, and there's a good chance they'll be able to get one of these turrets if Rascal Jesters just don't play fast enough and respond in time.
Yeah, exactly that. Play the 1-3-1, that tower in top already down to just under a half HP. Soul buffers out of some of that CC, has to arcane shift away from the explosive cast. Maybe now in a bit of danger, but that's a good turnaround from Kazu. Hachimecha now very low. Steel speeding around, looking for perhaps an onslaught of shadows, and finds it. It's not as much as they would like. Kazu still low. Into the backline goes Arya, trying to buy space. He is a damn speedy. Perfect execution, not enough, but they'll go 1-for-1 until the stopwatch comes through. Utapon in the backline with a killer instinct. He's looking for more. Ebby will find another, and DFM have done it to quadra to Utapon. It's 14-3 on the scoreboard, and DFM are on the road to finals. They're not just on it, they've made it. They will see whoever wins out of the next match in semi-finals. In that finals, they are looking so damn strong here. 3-1-6 for Arya, 7-0-4 for Utapon, and in 3-1, Detonation FocusMe prove why they are the best team in the LJL right now.
They have well and truly engaged themselves, and they're ready for whomever will meet them.
They have indeed. It was a good fight, a good contest, but Rascal Jesters couldn't quite pull it together, and for once in this series, Ezreal couldn't win the game. Arya's Akali is still a thing of absolute beauty. Utapon on this Kai'Sa, very strong. Ebby as well. It was another one of those games from DFM where every lane seemed to find their way to an advantage. And A lot of happy smiles for DFM, and rightly so. This squad, even with a coach as their support, still looking very, very dangerous.
The coaches nodding to one another in Detonation FocusMe. Take your bow. You well and truly deserve it. Remember, everybody, Kazu on your far left with Utapon. Ari in the center. Then we have Steel and Ebby is on your far right. They've bowed, and this felt convincing from the side of Detonation FocusMe Initialize. This felt really good to watch, and I'm wondering how much more can we see from Detonation FocusMe, because it feels like we've only peeled one layer away from them.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, game 2 aside, where Rascal Jester did a really good job. It was in the end kind of that similar sort of deal where it's an early snowball into a bit of a stall into one fight that just crushes everything. And DFM pulled it off more regularly across more lanes. Utapon and Sol was a fantastic matchup. I'm glad we called that out as a featured matchup, but it was them that got
Finding
that,
point,
got that
really.
advantage. Yeah, it really was. I think they're rightly going to the finals first. And Jester's probably got a few things to learn from this series. I think Kinatu as well had a couple good games, actually did show up, got some solo kills onto Ebby, played the got all that kind of thing, but there is a little bit more to go back to on the drawing board with some of these drafts. And I think Ezreal kind of finally not finding the victory, despite, that first round, like, Jester's feeling they had to first round it on red side, right? Was pretty difficult.
It really did feel a little bit like Recap as well found some difficulty when Ari was pulling out a few of his more spicy picks as well. Initialize, I'm going to ask you here, do you even want to go to a short break, or do you want to just do a breakdown now?
I think we just break it down now. I think we've seen enough of this series. Let's get on with this.
Let's go for it. So let's be real. It started with a 4-0 going to, well, a 3-0 going towards this bot lane of DFM, right?
Well, yeah, that's just it, right? Like, for once, it felt really quiet until the party starts in bot. Hecarim is around, so Hatchet just taking the Skull Crab at this point. He's gone round. He's gone kind of round, like, basically, Steel and Hatchet have kind of, like, skipped each other. Hatchet has gone through by the Raptor pit, got to put a ward down over the Krugs, and Hatchet is already in the Tri-Bush by bot. And Steel therefore gets the initial jump in bot side. He gets the kill onto Secret, and everybody starts teleporting. Double teleports from Kinatu and from Recap. Ebby follows, but he's already got the wave on the tower and top side, so Kinatu's losing a lot. And of course, Akali has her own way to become a little bit of a stowaway. Gets her own ticket on the Teleport Express with a beautiful shuriken flip, turns up seconds after Recap does. My camera's gotten pixelated to show that I'm so excited that who needs me to be in full definition? Hang on, let's see if we can fix that.
Oh, and you're back.
Voila, what do you know? It's a great trick. There we go. And from there, like, the fact that DFM come out of that fight bot with 3 kills and don't lose a man, and Sol even nearly dies and survives on 5 HP, the game's over at that point. Like, it's kills on far too many people, and it really did snowball from that point. It's a bit of a disaster, really.
Yeah, and part of the sad part for them is that Kinatu, who at least in game number 3, who was able to have some gold funneled on him and Hatchet were able to go, okay, you guys are having a bad time, but at least we found an opportunity here. We took Ebby out of this game on this Gragas. Not the second time around. Ebby really showing how flexible he is. He was allowing his support to remember to be like, hey, if you want this Gragas, you can play. If you want to have last pick for us as well, I'll play this Gragas. It shows the adaptability and really that this team is more happy to accommodate members of their team. We go on, obviously, this game, we see a few picks be made, but nothing super noteworthy.
I'll make one, if I wouldn't mind, one call I would like to make. Actually, this is the first time we saw DFM making concerted, consistent roams to mid lane. Like, a lot of times. And that actually was a really big deal, because Recap got put in a dumpster this game as well. Like, he was Void Staff first item, never got a mythic, was Seraph's very late into the game. And this is basically, they go, we've one bot, let's just punish the Syndra mid, just continually dive her, make her life absolute hell. And it really worked out, honestly. Like, there was very little they could do. I think they finally punished once when Kazu got a little bit caught out, but then actually Arya escaped afterwards, and then they catch Recap, who basically teleported back in, and then they punished him, so it was a 1-for-1 overall. And really was kind of it. Like, all the outer turrets went down. You're 1-3-1ing with a Gragas that's 2-0-2, and an Akali that's 50 CS up and 2 items, and Syndra's like, I do 5% HP damage to this front line. Like, I don't do anything in this game. And yes, Sol was pretty strong, but he's already having to he tried to basically play quite defensive against everybody coming at his face. And like particularly the Akali, the Hecarim, Alistair all diving at him makes his life very difficult. And Syndra already, she doesn't even have the dash that Ezreal does, so she just dies every time she tries to look for a fight.
I mean, it was a defining moment. We really saw this Hecarim be a very important part of both these compositions. Obviously, the Ezreal we were very much kind of hyping up, and this was the first one. 100% win rate over on the blue side. Obviously, DFM getting given it again, and the Rascal Jester's going, hey, this is the way we have to play it. We're going to try and get you to pick that Hecarim. We'll take the Ezreal. Sadly, it didn't work for them this time around, and DFM were able to stack 3 dragons, and it was around this Dragon Soul yet again that these fights were breaking out, and the Jesters were just a bit too far behind, because as opposed to the previous games where they had kept the games very close for a fair few games, well, a fair few rounds even, and normally the Dragon Soul is where the fights were being started. They're about 4.5k gold down when they were coming into this one, and it felt very difficult to come back.
Right, and eventually the Soul is kind of taken eventually because DFM basically say, yeah, well, you're having to choose between Baron and Soul. And we're going to hang around by Baron. We're going to murder you there. They take the Baron. Ebby hops over the wall to jump on Sol, who's the main damage. And yes, he trades his life for it, but Utapon gets to dive in with the killer instinct to murder him. And it's like, okay, it's a 4v4, and we've got way more damage and tankiness. And they get recap at the end of it as well. Arya, they get Kinatu as well, who
Yeah. And that
tries
also,
to get Arya, but he gets stopwatched out of any way of dying, right? So
and it all started because they found that kill on Hachimecha, and it
Yeah.
was around that control ward that you had been
Control
casting
ward.
so much over.
that one control wall by the red buff was the point of contention. It was kind of that lifeline, I guess, for the Jester. Right? It was their one way of preventing DFM from having free access to the Baron, like because they had a route in where they knew they had vision. And eventually they defended it a little too hard, and DFM pulled the trigger, and you got a Gragas and an Alistair and a Hecarim diving at you with 2 items, so you're never going to hurt them. GG.
GG, well played. Detonation FocusMe win this series 3-1, putting the Rascal Jesters into the semi-final match. They will face the winner of Sengoku Gaming facing off against V3 Esports, which will be our next week matchup next Saturday, 9 a.m. GMT. We get an hour lay-in initialized for that one. Oh, yes.
For the games, not the lay-in, but I'll take either.
I mean, we'll take the one that we can get. I mean, I'm excited for that game. Obviously, this does mean Detonation FocusMe will be the #1 seed in the finals. They have side selection, and they will be waiting for the winners. And we just have to look at this series a little bit more holistically now as we come towards the end of this broadcast. And Detonation FocusMe felt really good throughout this whole series. Yes, that one game from the Jesters, but that just showed that we all thought that there was an opportunity that the Jesters could take one of these games.
Yeah, I mean,
At minimum.
put up a fight. They put up a fight this series, and then they should feel. I won't say happy, right? You're never going to be happy with a loss like this. But the thing is, they shouldn't come out of this game feeling like they didn't have any chance at all. That they could. There are things they can learn for this series, and I honestly expect to see them again versus DFM in the finals, unless Sengoku continues to really ramp up the trajectory they've been on. I think that there's my hot tip for who I think wins against Sengoku in V3, just as an aside. But for me, I think Jester's still favourites to come and find that rematch, and hopefully they can learn from this series and try and get something out from it. And hey, Ezreal for Sol, still really good, even if it's great for a Utapon as well.
I mean, if they can just get that a bunch of times versus Sengoku or V3, depending on who they meet, it could be an opportunity for them. Though, with that said, initialize, that brings us to the very end of this broadcast. We predicted Detonation FocusMe to win. Do you think anyone will be able to take it from them?
No, I think DFM are going to be too good. I think at least as things stand, there is room for teams to improve. Playoffs teams ramp up as they go along a lot of the time.
They do.
If Sengoku, if Rascal Jesters ramp up, can step up to DFM, and DFM don't improve as much. That's always the deal with winning a lot, is that actually you don't necessarily learn as much because you're not necessarily getting punished on your mistakes as much on stage. So if they can improve enough to catch up, there is enough talent on Rascal Jester, Sengoku, or even V3 to really potentially look for it. But I need to see them improve from where they're at right now.
Well, for myself, initialize, and read in the production booth. We thank you all for joining us, and I'm sure Nightmare is somewhere in the enigma out there. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back, as already mentioned, next week with more LJL action. Be sure to join us in the Discord server. Link is down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find all of our links and personal social media accounts underneath us. But for all of us, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Don't go anywhere. Bye-bye.
See ya.